A chemical plant was bombed in Donetsk, in the part of Ukraine where Russia has been pouring in weapons and advisors. Mr. Obama met with the German Chancellor today, who's been shuttling from Ukraine to Moscow to Washington to try to find a way out.
Good morning, everybody. Please be seated. As always, it is a great pleasure to welcome my close friend and partner, Chancellor Merkel, back to the White House. Angela, of course, has been here many times, but this visit is a chance for me to congratulate her on two achievements. Well into her third term, Angela is now one of Germany's longest-serving chancellors. Perhaps more importantly, this is my first opportunity to publicly congratulate Angela and Germany on their fourth World Cup title. As we all saw in Rio, Angela is one of the team's biggest fans. Our U.S. team, however, gets better each World Cup, so watch out in 2018. Germany is one of our strongest allies, so whenever we meet, it's an opportunity to coordinate closely on a whole range of issues critical to our shared security and prosperity. As Angela and our German friends prepare to host the G7 this spring, it's also important for us to be able to coordinate on a set of shared goals. In our working lunch this afternoon, we'll focus on what we can do to keep the economy growing and creating jobs. As strong supporters of the transatlantic trade and investment partnership, we agree that there needs to be meaningful progress this year toward an agreement that boosts our economies with strong protections for consumers, workers, and the environment. I look forward to hearing Angela's assessment of how Europe and the IMF can work with the new Greek government to find a way that returns Greece to sustainable growth within the Eurozone, where growth is critical to both the United States and the global economy. And we'll be discussing our work to get all major economies to take ambitious action on climate change, including our initiative to limit public financing for coal-fired power plants overseas, and our global efforts to phase down some of the most dangerous greenhouse gases. Our discussion this morning focused on global security issues. We reaffirmed our commitment to training Afghan security forces and supporting a sovereign, secure, and united Afghanistan. We agree that the international community has to continue enforcing existing sanctions as part of our diplomatic effort to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, even as the P5+1 works closely together to do everything we can to try to achieve a good, verifiable deal. Two issues in particular that dominated our work day this morning: Russia's aggression against Ukraine and the international fight against ISIL. With regard to Russia and the separatists it supports in Ukraine, it's clear that they've violated just about every commitment they made in the Minsk agreement. Instead of withdrawing from eastern Ukraine, Russian forces continue to operate there, training separatists and helping to coordinate attacks. Instead of withdrawing its arms, Russia has sent in more tanks and armored personnel carriers and heavy artillery. With Russian support, the separatists have seized more territory and shelled civilian areas, destroyed villages, and driven more Ukrainians from their homes. These are the facts. But Russian aggression has only reinforced the unity of the United States, Germany, and our allies and partners around the world. I want to thank Angela for her strong leadership and partnership as we've met this challenge. Chancellor Merkel and Vice President Biden met with Ukrainian President Poroshenko in Munich over the weekend. Angela also shared with me the results of the talks in Moscow. We continue to encourage a diplomatic resolution to this issue. And as diplomatic efforts continue this week, we are in absolute agreement that the 21st century cannot stand idle, have us stand idle and simply allow the borders of Europe to be withdrawn at the barrel of a gun. So today we've agreed to move forward with our strategy. Along with our NATO allies, we'll keep bolstering our presence in Central and Eastern Europe, part of our unwavering Article 5 obligation to our collective defense. We will continue to work with the IMF and other partners to provide Ukraine with critical financial support as it pursues economic and anti-corruption reforms. We discussed the issue of how best to assist Ukraine as it defends itself. We agreed that sanctions on Russia need to remain fully in force until Russia complies fully with its obligations, even as we continue to work for a diplomatic solution. We are making it clear again today that if Russia continues on its current course, which is ruining the Russian economy, hurting the Russian people, as well as having such a terrible effect on Ukraine, Russia's isolation will only worsen both politically and economically. With regard to ISIL, Germany and the United States remain united in our determination to destroy this barbaric organization. I thank Angela for her strong support as a member of the international coalition that is working in Iraq. In a significant milestone in its foreign policy, Germany has taken the important step of equipping Kurdish forces in Iraq. Germany is preparing to lead the training mission of local forces in Erbil. Germany is a close partner in combating the threat of foreign terrorist fighters, which was the focus of a special session of the UN Security Council that I chaired last fall. And under Angela's leadership, Germany is moving ahead with new legislation to prevent fighters from traveling to and from Syria and Iraq. At the same time, both Angela and I recognize that young people in both our countries, especially Muslim communities, are being threatened and targeted for recruitment by terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIL. Protecting our young people from this hateful ideology so that they're not vulnerable to such recruitment is first and foremost a task for local communities, families, neighbors, faith leaders who know their communities best. But we can help these communities, starting with the tone and the example that we set in our own countries. So I want to commend Angela for her leadership. Her leadership speaking out forcefully against xenophobia and prejudice and on behalf of pluralism and diversity. She's made it clear that all religious communities have a place in Germany, just as they do here in the United States. And we're grateful that our German friends will be joining us at our summit next week on countering violent extremism, because this is a challenge our countries have to meet together. And let me end on a historic note. This year marks the 70th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. It marks the 25th anniversary of the reunification of Germany. So in a time when conflicts around the world sometimes seem intractable, and progress sometimes seems beyond grasp, Germany's story gives us hope. We can end wars, countries can rebuild, adversaries can become allies, walls can come down, divisions can be healed. Germany's story and the story of Angela's life remind us that when three people stand united, our interests